Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Let's go. Let's get it. Give you guys a couple of moments to get it going. To get in here. Oh, pardon me. Please, excuse me. You guys are watching. What's going on with y'all? We got some things to get into. We definitely have some things to get into. Definitely something for y'all to say, and I'll repeat it later if need be. Please know there's so much going on today about who the Harris campaign, who they paid, who they gave money to. Did you really actually support her, or were you just paid to give your voice and your opinion and your influence? Always keep in mind, celebrities will be paid to lie, and when you're poor or not wealthy, you will be paid to die. It's the truth. Celebrities will be paid to lie, and the common folk will be paid to die. The jobs that pay the most for the common man, the common individual, are dangerous. There's side effects that can take you out. Just look into them. And that's why their costs, their pay is high. That's why the salary is high. And when you're a celebrity, you're going to be paid to lie because it's about swaying the crowd, swaying the people to go from one direction to the next direction. And the only people who are influential enough to do such a thing are not politicians. It is a celebrity. Donald Trump is not a politician. He is a celebrity, but he is a celebrity that's based on business. His business brought him to celebrity status. His celebrity status brought him into politics. He is now influential. If you are a celebrity, you may very well be used to lie. What is the actual lie? To say something that is not true. You're fully aware of that it's not true, but you are paid handsomely to push that agenda convincingly because you are a celebrity. If you're an actor, you get paid to convince people of something that is not true. If you're a musician, you are trained in how to affect people's emotions. So, if a politician stands behind you to say, hey, I can't say it to them, but you go ahead and say it to them, now that celebrity is being used to lie. When you're dealing with common people, everyday folk, you will be paid to die. The celebrity will be paid to lie. How are you paid to die? Not necessarily go in a corner and then your life comes to an end, but the way how you'll advance up the totem pole, still remaining as just the everyday person, is the job that becomes available to you is typically a dangerous job. Look at some of the most high paying jobs, and you'll find out how exactly they are so dangerous, where they can deteriorate your health. See that? So it should be no surprise to people that, oh my goodness, all of these celebrities was paid all of this money to go ahead and promote or to back someone, which to come to find out they didn't actually even care about this person's agenda or they actually weren't backing them. Yeah, so when they were criticizing you, they got paid for that. It's very expensive to stand in front of people and say stuff and sound stupid. But if they're throwing six figures at you, seven figures at you, 10 figures at you, you'll do it. And the most common person in the world, a person who works at a supermarket, a person who works in a store, a department store, they'll do the same thing. You get people who will do things to embarrass themselves for a lot less because the need is there. And some of you guys look at a celebrity and you go, oh, they have so much money. Why will they do that? When you have a lot of money, then you have a lot of possessions. When you have a lot of possessions, you know what comes along with that? Not just the taxes of those possessions, but the maintenance. If you live in a house that's 20,000 square feet, what do you think the electricity bill is? What do you think the gas bill is, if it's gas? Or what do you think the water bill is, if they're getting water from the city? What do you think it costs for the lawn care? These things aren't inexpensive. The taxes. So, yeah, if they're going to stand before the whole world and say something against their own people, of course they will. Because what else is going to keep the lights on, right? If it's a slow movie season or their talent is kind of dwindling and nobody's really checking for them no more, you know what's definitely a good check? You know what's definitely a good payday, especially when it's election time? You making merchandise off of you. That's what's a good payday. Because what movie really comes out during election time? Everybody's caught up in that. Everybody's going stir crazy over who's going to be this, who's going to be that. So the only way you can get people to flock to a particular area in masses is at the polls. You're not getting people to movie theaters during election time. You're not getting people to concerts during election time. You're getting people to the polls. You're getting people to polls online. You're getting people into these rooms where they're going to discuss who's next to take office. That's what you're going to get. There's nobody who's going to be doing anything that's going to gravitate as much attention like a politician during the time of the political cycle. So a celebrity is going to work off of you because the most important thing is you, is the people. Without the people, without the masses, without the large group of people, you will get nowhere. It's all about going after the people. Because even if the people don't necessarily make the decisions, the people lead people to understand that that is the decision that was made. And if you don't necessarily get what it is that I'm saying the people themselves may not necessarily make a decision. But if someone behind the scenes makes a decision, or a group of people behind the scenes make a decision, and the people go along with it, then that is the communication that this is the decision that needs to be made because the people went along with it. Now, they may not even take into consideration that they were manipulated to think that. They were influenced to feel that way. It wasn't deep down inside their inner being that brought them to that position. It was the influence of somebody who has the power to influence them. Who else would it be other than a celebrity in the world of which we live in? Celebrities have that power. The priests, the pastors, that's the most known, they're most known for their celebrity. They're not most known for their sermon. Joel Osteen, T.D. Jakes, Jamal Bryant, they're not known for their sermon. They're known for their celebrity. Even though they're supposed to represent God, they're known for their celebrity. Or if maybe one day, like a Jamal Bryant, it was him, right, who said these hoes ain't loyal, and everybody went crazy about it. You need to go crazy over the fact that this man looked at Kamala Harris and likened her to Queen Esther. That's crazy to me. Because if you know anything about Queen Esther, you would know that Kamala Harris, that's disrespectful to the legacy of Queen Esther to say that Vice President Kamala Harris is reminiscent or of the same spirit or of the same ilk. Like, there's nothing, absolutely nothing about those two women that's similar. Nothing. Not in character, not in public display, not in what it is that they stand for. Absolutely nothing. But somebody like Jamal Bryant, he'll take it. He'll take it. He has a congregation, and he'll sell his whole congregation out. Yeah, go ahead and go after her. Politician has no business in the church of God. None. None. There have always been politicians in the type of system of which we live in. Read your Bible and see where in the New Testament, when you're reading about the church of God, do you see any of the politicians going to the church, the temples of God, and they're there speaking about their agenda, and the priests or the pastors of God, the apostles of God, are trying to get people to back that particular politician? Like, you're insane. Doesn't happen. There was a political system during the Roman Empire. That's the time of the New Testament. The time of the New Testament is during the time of Roman occupation. Do you see Jesus Christ saying, hey, everybody, we need y'all to back Caesar in this particular cycle? No. He said, make sure you pay what it is you're supposed to pay, and make sure you give to God what it is you're supposed to give to God. I'm speaking in layman's terms. He said, render unto Caesar's that which is Caesar's, and render unto God that which is God's. So if you're a citizen walking around in a society around you, there's going to be things you're going to have to do. But nowhere do you see these particular people that they have some form of influence in the church of God. So if you're a pastor and you have these particular individuals in your church, they're not there on the behalf of God. They're not there to speak to God. They're there because there's a large quantity of people in one influential area. That's the only reason why they're there, is that to see if you can back them, if you can follow them. They won't go to a football game and do that, because the people in the actual arena, they know how those people think. They know how the overwhelming majority of the individuals in that arena, their mind is solely focused on this game. That's it. Whether they put money up on the game or whatever, they're locked in, they're zeroed in, they're honed in on the actual outcome of this game. So a politician would actually make them upset. But in a church with a pastor, that most people are more so concerned about the pastor as opposed to what the actual reason for why they're in church to begin with, or why they should be in church to begin with. Yeah, a politician will be inserted in based on the pastor allowing the politician to come in because the pastor was paid. Now insert the politician. Somebody like Jamal Bryant is going to talk pure nonsense to try to liken Kamala Harris to Queen Esther. And now you have Kamala Harris there. Nothing about Kamala Harris says anything about church. Nothing. Nothing about her agenda, what she's looking for. Nothing about that says anything about God. Not one thing. Not one thing. She's married to a Jewish man and she eats pork. So where are you seeing principle or guidelines of God? Where do you see that at? There's nothing about it that says anything about it. But that's the misfortune of, again, being there. So if you have a celebrity pastor, celebrities are paid to lie, right? When they do so on stage or with the cameras on them, that's for entertainment. It's not necessarily a lie, because people look at them and people understand, oh, okay, you're getting me to understand this character, build this character, what you're portraying, right? This is some form of theater. This is some form of art form. This is some form of entertainment. But outside of that particular time, the politician is going to get this particular person to say, hey, everybody, Stand behind this person. Hey, everybody, something must be wrong with you because you're not standing behind this person. That's not their genuine thoughts. That's not their real life concerns. They're not speaking to the people. It doesn't matter if they look like you or not. This is the thing about celebrity status. Celebrity status, nobody should be surprised that celebrities were paid large amounts of money to pretend as if they're really for a person. No, they're not really for a person. And it's just unfortunate that you may be on the receiving end of the lashing out of the celebrity or by the celebrity for no reason. Because you're a man or because you're black or because you're Hispanic, they're going to look to just attack you, right? So, with that being said, let's take a couple of minutes. Huh? Oh, yeah. All right. Well, we definitely have our concerns about that. Okay. Definitely. So, moving on, let's segue and let's talk about manhood. Manhood. What exactly is manhood? What does it mean to be a man? There was a film not too long ago. The gentleman's last name is Walsh. I don't remember his first name at the moment, but it was about what is a woman. I don't know which one of you guys actually saw that. I saw it. It was cool. I appreciate it. And at the end, the determination of which he came to via his wife was that a woman is an adult female. That's what a woman is, an adult female. Now, a man, you hear a lot about a man, a real man. That's what a man will do. So, what is it? What is so spectacular, interesting, or annoying? What is it? What is it about a man? What makes a man? People who say a man, men, they're hunter gatherers, hunter gatherers. So, men went out to hunt and they gathered what was needed. Is that true? Is that what makes a man? You're a hunter gatherer. So, what happens in modern day life when you don't necessarily have to hunt in most societies? Most societies, you don't have to hunt. So, has the definition of a man transitioned into something else because now he doesn't have to hunt? Because if I'm going to Whole Foods or Kroger's, I'm not hunting, right? I'm just going to the store. That's how I go to provide. Now, a gatherer, you could say, well, yeah, people still gather, or a man still has to gather. He gathers what's needed for the home. But what makes a man? During this particular election cycle, Joy Reid said that there's a new, Joy Reid from MSNBC fame said that there's this new introduction of masculinity by guys like Tim, by guys like Tim Walsh. I'm wow. So is that what makes a man? Is Tim Walsh the embodiment, governor of Minnesota? Is that his name? No, I'm saying Tim Walsh, excuse me, Walls. Is he the embodiment of a man? Does he make up the new masculinity? What is new masculinity? What was the old masculinity that needed to be replaced by new masculinity? That's my question. Did it need to be replaced? Sometimes we hear about toxic masculinity. If you're familiar with our content, I went into that before about what's toxic masculinity. It's not really toxic masculinity, it's actually toxic femininity. Toxic femininity because the most feminine woman you could see on TV or you could see her on an app, on your phone, whatever the case may be, and she may be slapping the hell out of a man. You could watch a show like The View, and all of those women will gather together, and these are highly decorated, educated, influential women who've done decades of work into their particular fields. And they'll get up there and all of them will say, I don't need my husband. My husband is worthless. It's nothing. Right? So that's toxic femininity. You can't get a group of husbands who stand up there and be like, my wife, you think I need her? My wife, please. I need to tell her what to do. Michelle Obama, Michelle, common name, Obama, unique last name. When Oprah Winfrey asked her about what would you want to say to men and stuff like that, what did she say? Do better. Do better. This is the same woman who said, when they go low, you go high. But when it comes to men, she'll let you have it. And Barack Obama said she will let you have it. So again, what is it about a man? Because so many people have so much to say, they have such strong conviction about the definition of a man. A man could be easily defined by anyone and everyone, but a woman is very complex. So, what is it about a man? What makes a man a man? One thing we know about men is that their names are everywhere. All over the planet Earth, wherever you go, you're going to find the name of a man. How did that come about? Is that the patriarchy type of talk? How exactly did that come about? Well, if you go through lands, countries, cities, states, a good amount of them are going to bear a man's name. Why is that? Now, some of you are looking and you're like, but wait a minute, there's Maryland and there's Europe, who is named after a black woman, by the way, Europa. But nevertheless, there are lands that's named after women, absolutely. But the overwhelming majority of lands that we know of are named after men. But why is that? Better yet, everybody on the planet Earth is named after a man. What do you have to say about that? Hmm? You could say, no, my last name, that's my mother's last name. Even if your last name is not the name of your father and you have your mother's last name, that's probably your maternal grandfather. That's probably who it is. That's probably who it is. It's going to be your mother's father, whose name you have, or your mother's grandfather. That's the name you have. That's the last name. But what is it about men that their name is everywhere? You can't escape the name of a man. Guess what? Let's go there. If you're a female, you still bear the male part. If you're a woman, you still identify with the linking to a man. Woman, man. Female, male. So why is it that everywhere we go, we are bearing the name or the tracing of a man? What is it about men? Well, the only logical understanding you should be coming to is because we actually come from men. No pun intended, but that's where we come from. We come from men. So, since we come from men and men impregnated our mothers, something from a man was inserted into a woman who then became our mother. And then there was some form of buildup and creation between that man and that woman, right? So the genesis, the origins goes back to a man. So why are men so important and so dynamic on the planet Earth? What makes a man as valuable as he is? Because again, we live in the world where people say, what makes a real man? It takes a real man to be a stepfather? Is that what it takes? A real man to be a stepfather? Why is there now an issue between real and unreal? Why is it a real man? Why isn't it not just a man? Right? Why does it just take a man to be a father or a stepfather? People don't like that. Typically, when people say things about men, people get bothered by that. Why? Why would you be bothered at somebody talking about a man? Why is that? But again, what is it about a man, manhood, making you this thing? And what is this thing? Is it the hunter gatherer? Because the hunter gatherer, that more so sounds like a caveman, the Neanderthal man. But everybody on the planet Earth doesn't have the origins of the Neanderthal man. The Neanderthal man is a type of man. Everybody was not living in such conditions where that's the way how they communicated with one another, and that's the environment of which they lived. Everybody on the planet Earth, their origins are not the caveman. I don't know where people get this from. Well, I do. But nevertheless, that's not everybody. So is it really the hunter gatherer? And back to that question, has man now transitioned into something else where it's undefined because men don't have to hunt anymore? How much gathering is it if it's all there for you? If I could take my phone and I can get everything I want right here, what gathering am I really doing? It's more so this is doing the gathering for me. So am I no longer a man because I'm not hunting and I'm not gathering? So again, who came up with the definition of what a man is? Who determined that a man is that? Who determined that a real man is a man who's going to raise a child that belongs to someone else? Where do we get these things from? Where do we get these sayings from? What makes man who and what he is? How important are men? Where everywhere we go on the planet Earth, we see men's names. Why is that? Why could you go to a city that's named after a man? Why could you go to a state that's named after a man? Why could you go to a country, a capital that's named after a king or a nobleman? Hmm? Why are there holidays that bear a man's name? Why is that? Is it because over the fact that men rule and everybody else is in subjection? Well, it's really just between men and women. Is that why? Or is there something more to being a man? Because men publicly, it's okay. You can shame and defame a man in today's standards, and that be okay. In today's world, that's perfectly fine. It's okay. You can go about your business. You can go quiet about your business. We see that happen all throughout this election cycle. Leading up to actual election day and post election day, all we've been hearing is the blaming of men. Whether it's the black man, it's your fault for the election outcome, or whether it's the Hispanic man, it's your fault for the election outcome. Why, if two people run a race, the one who loses, why isn't it their fault? Why isn't it your fault you lost the race? I mean, I don't get it. If I was running against him or her and they beat me, wouldn't it be my fault that I was slower than them or I didn't do what it was I needed to do to get to the finish line before them or with more collection than them? How did it become men's fault? How did a black man become responsible for the outcome of the election or the Hispanic man? Why is it that the black man is misogynist? This is the stupidity of what it is that they say. Y'all know Elizabeth Warren ran for president, right? What happened with Elizabeth Warren's campaign? How successful was it? I'll let you guys tell me. How successful was Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts? How successful was her campaign for president? Which of these people voted or backed or supported Elizabeth Warren? What about the woman from the Republican Party who Donald Trump had made the comments about her face? Remember her? She was running for president. Was it misogyny that she didn't go? No, wasn't wasn't for her. All right, so you see, people will play games. There's women who do things. There's women who make things happen. There's women who shake stuff up. You know, Kamala Harris was not the only woman who ran for president, right? Y'all do know that, right? Dr. Jill Stein did run. Y'all do know that, right? And nobody's attaching misogyny to Dr. Jill Stein for why she wasn't elected president. But she's a woman, though. Barack Obama, Michelle Obama, and you bozos that's on social media blaming men and saying that America's a misogynist country, and that's the reason why Kamala Harris wasn't elected president. Well, there are more women than men. So did more women vote or did more men vote? Dum dum. Mm, If you have more women vote than you have men vote, and out of the amount of women, they vote for the man, is it really because they hate women? I don't think so. So again, we see that in today's times, a man will be associated with something either negative or with all of this stuff we see with men's name on it, there's got to be some form of responsibility when your name is on it. But with all of this stuff of what we see it's openly and readily accessible to either criticize men or to look to redefine what a man is by saying a real man or to say what the new man is or the new masculinity. For example, Joy Reid, what she said about Governor Tim Walz. He's an example of the new masculinity. I don't know anybody who's a masculine man who's going to say, I identify with Tim Walz. I just don't know who that individual is. I'm not saying I know everybody, but I haven't heard it. And I'm guessing I have similar or the same algorithm as you guys. If y'all know of them, please tell me. I know Ricky Smiley said he likes Tim Walz because he's like a football coach. There's a lot of football coaches, a lot. Pop Warner, Pee Wee. It's a lot of football coaches. I don't know what that has to do with being vice president. Maybe one day I'll get to ask him. But what is it about a man? A lot of people do not like that particular subject. A lot of you've heard over the past several months that women are not supposed to be men centered. You got to stop being men centered. You can't be putting men as the focal point. If you're not in a relationship with a man, is a man really the focal point of your life? And if you are, if you're a married woman, is it really all about that man? And what exactly about that man? That's what we're opening up the conversation to what is it about men? What makes men just such these polarizing figures that people would speak so much about the fact that a man needs to do this, needs to do that, needs to do this, needs to do that, but then they'll also fail to realize that they bear men's names. The places of which they go when their feet touch ground, there's a great possibility that that has a man's name. Their actual identity bears a man's name. Their last name, their family name is a man's name. And if it's not their biological father and it's a name that their mother was carrying, the name of which their mother carries is typically a man that's related to their mother, like the mother's grandfather. But it's just the grandfather on the maternal side because you have a paternal grandfather, your father's father, and you have a maternal grandfather, your mother's father. So chances are, if you're old enough, and you go back generations to where the household wasn't so damn just disrupted and ass backwards, chances are, if you didn't grow up with your father or you're about to have a child and you're not necessarily in a relationship with the father of that child, so you don't want to give your child that man's last name, which is weird, but nevertheless, you don't want to give your child that man's last name. So you say, I'm going to give that child my last name. But your last name is either your father's last name or it's your mother's last name. And if it's your mother's last name, it's her father's last name or her grandfather's last name. So you're not going to escape a man. And if you're a woman, you hear it, spell it out. You're not going to escape a man. If you're a female, you're not going to escape the male. So why is it that men are just these figures all throughout the planet Earth? And that's because we come from men. That's the reason why. We actually don't come from our mothers, we come from our fathers. And that's why what is inserted into our mothers bears the name of the father, if everything is going right, because it's of your father. This doesn't put down a woman's experience and a woman's input. A woman has code that goes into that child in her belly. She has a lot of things going on to frame and to nourish that child. And so does the man, because it's just the whole process. But why is it that we're so comfortable just bashing men in general? Not a man who we know, not a man who broke the law, not a man who did something uncivil, but just in general, as a society, society as a whole is comfortable with speaking negatively or disparagingly, openly about men, even achieved men, even a man in a relationship, such as a husband, who's actually taking care of his wife. People will gather, women will gather and say, we don't need them. Even men will gather and say, and these are educated men, supposedly, will gather and say, men are not that important. Misogyny from men is why we lost the election, which is so dumb because there's more women than men. So if it's more women than men, and women voted the most, and they didn't vote for the woman who lost, then how could it be misogyny? Jackass. It can't be the hatefulness. It can't be the hatred and the hatefulness of women. It would just be because she lost. Now, why did she lose? Because someone else did better than her. Now, what did they do that was better than her? Well, if you get people to vote for you, and that's about attraction, and I feel that this person is attracting me to them, and this person is attracting me to them to feel that they're going to handle my life a certain way, then I'm going to go with whoever I feel is doing that. So if I'm more attracted to this particular campaign as opposed to that campaign, then why? But if you say you're a member of that campaign or you're a supporter of that campaign, where are you going to get if you speak ill of people who you're trying to invite to your campaign? Can a restaurant give samples in front of the restaurant, and based on the samples, it causes people to come and have a seat or take a menu or order takeout? Yes. because the samples are good. But if the restaurant had samples and the samples were bad, or the person who was giving out the samples was speaking bad about you or negatively about you, why would you take your hard earned money and go and sit in that restaurant to be further disrespected? I mean, this stuff is like elementary levels of understanding, but nevertheless, they do it over and over and over again. So, what is it about a man or men that people feel so strongly about them? Some of these people who speak things about a man have never even lived with a man in their entire lifetime. They've never lived with one. They grew up in a household without a man, and now that they're an adult, they're not with a man in the household. And I'm not talking about women, I'm just talking about people, because you could be a man who grew up, your father wasn't in the household, and now you're an adult. You don't live with another man, you just live by yourself. Or maybe you live with a woman. Or you could be a girl who grew up, became a woman. You didn't live with your father in the household, and you've never had a relationship where there was a man in the household. So, where are you getting the information from about what's expected of a man when you haven't seen that expectancy live out? What are you basing your expectancy on? Man, this is something serious. So, I'm going to put it out there. A man. What makes a man? Appreciate y'all for watching. Hopefully, we get some answers. Follow, subscribe, comment, like, do all of that good stuff. What